Good afternoon. So it's been a while since I've done a video, but I saw someone do baking an edge shader in Blender this morning, and I thought, God, I do that all the time in LightWave. So I thought I'd do a video. I've not seen anyone do a LightWave version, so I thought, yeah, why not? So the video I watched was basically taking an object like this, adding an edge shader to it, which we've got it's called Edge Shader, which is built into LightWave, which is just a shader trick to give you that sort of rounded edges look on lower poly objects. Or you could do it on high poly objects, but um, it works okay for stuff like this. You do get a few artifacts around some edges, I guess, but you don't generally notice it. It is a shader trick after all, and on round edges I think it's pretty tricky to get it right. So I was just going to go through a couple of the gotchas in doing this in LightWave that maybe people don't know. So one of them is if you want to see the rounded edge output, you'd normally expect to see it in your camera tangent space buffer. So I've set up a baking camera, which is set to, these are things you need to do, constrain it to your desired power of 2 resolution, and that's kind of it for the baking camera, those settings. But make sure you set it to your object. You can bake from high to low poly using this as well, but this isn't. So select your mesh there, select your UV texture there. Make sure the offset from surface is higher than the default, because the default's rubbish. It never works on the default, ever, on anything. Make sure it's set to smooth normal, and you can set your UV border to whatever you wish. I think it's in pixels, so 5 pixels will just whack the edges, like padding, it's UV padding and everything else. And that's that. So at the moment you can't see the rounded edges in this camera tangent buffer, but so what you have to do is plug it in that one, which is really weird, but that works. So as you can see all the rounded edges, blah blah blah. It looks really cool, and this is pretty much exactly what the guy was doing in Blender. It's just grabbing the normal into a normal buffer and then rendering it out. So one of the other things you need to do is ensure that either this or your output buffer is ticked. So this one will save it out when you press render, or you can just view it in the image viewer, which is what I'm going to do right now. So you hit render, you can turn off GI, and I've got a bit of sampling going on here as well, just to make it look nicer, but you don't actually have to for your tangent buffer. You could just, generally just works okay. So I'll save this out as a, I was going to do it as a 24-bit, but actually I'm going to do it with an alpha channel, because that can come in handy. One thing in LightWave is you can't change the background color from black, or using the native tools anyway. You might be able to using other tools, but actually I have requested this for God knows how long, but actually it really helps if you've got just a blue as a background when you're baking out textures. So this is going to bake out the what was I talking about? I've lost my train of thought. So it's just going to bake it out with an alpha. Sometimes it's worth, depending if you're getting render artifacts, drop the UV border down to 0 so it's not doing any padding at all. Render it out with an alpha, and then I will show you the next step of the process because I'm going to take this over to Substance Painter quickly just to show you what you get. So I've already got this added as normal map, and I'll just quickly show you. Oh, why did I press F3? I was supposed to press 4. Okay. So this is the, believe it or not, this is the baked map in LightWave viewport, and it looks every bit as good as the edge shader, but obviously it's not. The edge shader is quite computational. It may seem simple, but it's a lot more so than just having a texture map in your scene. And especially for game engines, it's handy to have to bake stuff out if you want to take this into a game engine like Unreal, which I do quite a lot. So if I've already got this loaded in Substance Painter all set up, but one thing I was going to show was how to set it up. So I've got some rust effect going on, I've got a base color of white, but if you want to import your normal map like I have, the one from LightWave, you have to go import resources, add resources, choose your map. Ensure this is so convoluted, it's insane, but make sure it's set to texture and then import into current session, which I've already done over here. But I think I did import it, but for some reason I think I imported it into current session. What did I call it? Weird object. I think I need to re-import. I thought you could re-import that. Anyway, I'll re-import it manually. Maybe it's because I imported it into current session. So now that's got an alpha channel on it. So sometimes it's worth. So if I add a fill layer, this should go underneath of that, I think. Set it to normal. So now if I go to my normal, what you get, any gaps that you had in your original normal map, it will fill the background in with blue and do all the padding and it does. Substance does an amazing job of padding textures. I know it's because it's a post process, but it does an incredible job. But basically, I was just if you've in LightWave, if you've baked out your thing without any UV border, it's a good idea to put a fill, which is just the normal color in the background. Sometimes it's good to blur it a bit as well, just to make sure it looks even better. You can still see the hard edges, but generally in game engines you don't see it as much as in here. It's I think it's just a thing with Substance, it doesn't look quite as good. So if I turn back my base color, so here we've got the LightWave's normal, which is the edge shader, blending with the rust and weathering. So if I turn that down a bit, you can still see that LightWave's normal is affecting the edges on here. The one thing you need to be aware of though is when you load this in, you have to come in here, go to normal and make sure it's on normal map combine and it's above your other layer. But I think it looks pretty good. It's obviously not perfect, but it's not too bad. Another thing you have to do is go in here and set it to OpenGL. That was what I completely forgot. So when you load in your map, it will look shonky, it looks shit. And that, see, I thought something was going on. I thought it didn't look quite good enough. But yeah, once you set it to OpenGL, because LightWave's normal maps work in OpenGL, you end up with this, which is pretty perfect, to be quite honest. It's pretty good. So if you do those things and then toggle it on and off, you can see the difference. It does make a huge difference, and in game assets you will notice it even more. Everything will just look just that bit more detailed, but with no overhead at all, apart from loading a tiny little normal map. So I'm going to pause the video now while I export these textures back to LightWave and show you what it looks like in there. Alright, I've exported those images from Substance. Now, one thing I forgot to run through actually was the modelling of this. You need a decent UV map. Specifically, any curved edges like these ones around here should be as straight as possible in your UV, otherwise you can get stepping in the normal map, and that applies to any baking using any renderer really. It's just something to be aware of. Right, so I've loaded those textures in. Now these need to be set, so normal map set to linear, and this is kind of more for Unreal Engine, but I use them in LightWave anyway, just to keep file sizes down. So this is a packed map, which is used for Unreal Engine mostly, but game engines in general. So you get each the RGB holds the separate PBR texture sets, which seems weird, but it works really well. So you've got occlusion in R, I think it's roughness in G, and then metallic is in B, but there's nothing there, which is as it should be. So the most important thing is to set those any data maps to linear in here, otherwise stuff looks funky. So if I quickly load these in, this might be a bit boring actually. I might pause the video again. I wasn't going to bore you with the details, but I got to this point and I thought, actually, there's something, when you're using these packed texture maps, it bakes the ambient occlusion into the red, and I thought I may as well show you how to use that in here, just as a handy tip maybe. I think you can just plug it straight in there and then go multiply. So it's basically a, oh hang on, I plugged from colour, I'm supposed to plug it from the red, and then I'm pretty sure that'll work, yeah. And I've got the normal map plugged in down there. So if I, so this is all set up now, and that's a Substance export with the LightWave edge baked normal added over the top. Now I'm sure people are going to say, oh, but you can bake the normal edges in Substance. I've tried it and it doesn't do a particularly good job from what I've seen. I tried that on quite a few projects, and it never looks as good as when I've baked out of LightWave, and I'm always really pleased with the effect that I get out of LightWave's one. So, and that's it really. I just thought I may as well do a video, share some of my knowledge. Well, it's not really knowledge, you can do it in anything, and a lot of people do, but I've never seen anyone do this using LightWave, so I thought I'd sort of help out anyone who wants to do it. As I've said before, just let me know if this is any good, if you want to see any more, if you're fed up with my boring voice. And I'll do some more videos if you give me a shout. Cheers, bye.